Shout out Roner Park. Anthony Slater's my guy.
Yeah, he's still, I think, talking to Jay. So.
I can't see, so I'm watching you to know what's going on.
Bring him on, would you? Since he's your old friend.
My guy,
Yeah.
Anthony Slater, covering the NBA for ESPN. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're running around, so we really appreciate it, my dude.
What's up, fellas? I'm an hour ahead. I am in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay. Hey, let's start by asking you about what you reported on DeMar DeRozan, because we know it was reported at SI.com. Oh, the Kings may be buying him out, and I know you quickly said the Kings have no plan to buy out DeMar DeRozan. So what clarification can you give us on that?
I mean, what I reported, I was just told they're not going to buy him out. That's not the plan at all. I've heard there's been zero discussions about that. You know, could he theoretically be traded in the next, what is it now, 19 hours, something like that? That's possible. But, he's got a maneuverable deal, right, with this $10 million, only $10 million guaranteed next season. You can shop him a little bit in the summer. If you want to get some salary savings, you could cut him theoretically at any point in the summer. So from what I gather, zero intent on buying him out.
Yeah. And what we heard, Anthony, too, is that given his contract, if he were, say, to accept a buyout right now, he might end up losing money. So one of the reasons the Kings may not be planning to buy him out is because they know that he would not be willing to do a buyout right now.
Yeah, well, unless the Kings are like, here's every dollar, even the non-guaranteed dollars you were going to get, but there would be no reason for the Kings to do that. It's a little like I dealt with this with the Chris Paul situation a couple years ago. He had a $30 million complete non-guarantee, and they kept pushing back the guarantee date because they were seeing if they could trade him. And if they were able to execute a trade, he was going to get the full 30. But it got to a point they couldn't find the right trade. They ended up cutting him. He ends up signing for like $11 million in San Antonio, which is fine, spending money, but that's $19 million less than he would have. So, like you said, financially doesn't make much sense for either side.
Anthony, I know the conversation that we've been having is a bit financial, but I'm also wondering, as far as the playing time is concerned, the fact that it doesn't seem like a buyout is going to happen, would that signal, or is it safe to assume that maybe the Kings didn't say to DeMar that anything was going to change after the trade deadline? If they came to him and said, hey, we're going to prioritize the kids and your playing time might fluctuate a bit, would he have been more motivated to maybe seek a buyout?
Just because of the financial implications that we've been talking about, I don't know that there's much motivation at all for the buyout now. There might be more motivation of like, hey, find me a new home before tomorrow at noon. But I think they are going to seesaw the minutes back, more towards the youth in the next couple months. I think the March and April games particularly are going to be, flooded with some of the younger guys. But there are a lot of minutes to go around an NBA game. DeMar, among the veterans, is like highly respected in the locker room. He's still extremely productive. There's just like a professional approach to him that, executives to coaches to teammates seem to love. So I don't expect him to go from, he played 51 games this year at 30-something minutes a game to just, be sitting there at 10 minutes a game off the bench or something like that. But I do think you'll start to see more youth, and he might be, one of the guys that is a victim of that.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, any of the deals that we know of so far, anything that's been done that has surprised you?
Davis to Washington did come out of nowhere. You heard Atlanta, you heard Toronto, really the Sabonis teams, right, in some ways. And Washington had already, you thought, made their like kind of big swing, salary relief in another team with Trae Young, but they hit fast forward on their rebuild. They did it for the cheap. Those firsts were a little bit fake. It was interesting. It was that one of the firsts in that Davis deal was a little bit tied into the Warriors, right? Because it was the Jordan Poole for Chris Paul first that the Warriors had sent Washington in 2023 that's top 20 protected. The bottom 20 of that pick, 1 through 20, is currently on the table to Milwaukee in the Giannis deal, proposal, I should say. I would say that and the Jaren Jackson in the last couple of days, because you didn't really hear rumblings around the league about either of those, and then boom. And to me that signaled, and this can relate to Sacramento, as they try to figure out their pecking order in the West over the next few years. Like, Utah's speeding their rebuild up, which, it's probably not good if you're like an on-the-ground Kings fan that wants to win now, but, that probably puts you, a little bit higher in the lottery rankings the next couple years.
Yeah.
Slater, people have been joking me this whole time about the Kaminga quota that I've had and Kaminga Watch. We feel like it might finally be time to lay Kaminga Watch to rest, specifically in Sacramento. Also, just in general, give us the most recent update on Jonathan Kaminga and I guess how things just fell apart between the Kings and the Warriors. Was it just the Jimmy injury? Is that where everything kind of changed?
And I also want to know, I'm sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to know if you were shocked the way Windhorst came after you 4 years of Slater in his backyard. That was a cheap shot, Slates.
I took another one back at him, a week later when Kaminga was suddenly back in the rotation. I'm like, here we go again, Brian, covering the mirrors. But, his went a little bit more viral because he's Brian, I get it. But, Kaminga Watch is never ending. As far as, let's just take the Kings side of it. I mean, the reality is the Warriors just never wanted what the Kings were offering. And the Kings were never willing to say, hey, we want him so bad. Here's a blow-you-away offer. Here's an unprotected pick. Here's, something that you can't say no to. And the Warriors are pretty adamant, especially, as you're seeing now, they have pretty big plans, and it's kind of a one-track mind. They weren't going to take the Monk contract, the DeRozan contract. And the Kings kind of had to pivot at that point. To me, the deal that they got for DeAndre Hunter was kind of similar to the proposals they were given for Kaminga, and then as far as what's the latest, Jonathan Kaminga wants to know. I see him, usually at games, and he's like, "Hey, what you hearing?" You know what I mean? And it's just we'll see by tomorrow. If he's not traded, and really, I'm talking about if this Giannis stuff doesn't come to be for the Warriors, and I'm skeptical at this point, but we'll see. Then I think there's a decent chance he is here past the deadline, which. It, to a degree is awkward, but at the same time, when his knee is right, and I think it should be soon, he's probably going to, play 25 to 30 minutes a game. It's going to be pretty low stakes. I don't see this team, unless they make a surprising move, being like a title contender. So he's going to get probably a good amount of shots. They need what he does, and there's a chance for him over the next 30 games, if he stays healthy, to maybe resuscitate his value to some degree. Get his team option picked up for $24 million, and then they go back into the market this summer, and I'm in the backyard, and we're talking again about where he might go.
What do you think of DeAndre Hunter and his fit here? There's the basketball fit. There's the possibility that they brought him in hopes of re-upping his value, if you will, and spinning him off because they can't get anything for the players they already have. So I know it's kind of a mystery, but what was your first reaction to that trade? What do you think of DeAndre Hunter's fit here in Sacramento?
Yeah, clearly Scott Perry likes him and talks about, he fits some of the stuff that Scott Perry wants to build his team out, which is big, rangy, wing, and kind of, play in transition, should be able to defend multiple positions. These are the type of players he's gone after, right? That's why he was going after Kaminga. Hunter's, he's fine. He's not an all-star. I don't think we'll ever reach that type of level, but he had better years in Atlanta. To me, he's one of those 3-and-D wings whose effectiveness will be almost purely based off what his three-point percentage is in any given year. Mm-hmm. And, he got it up to, I think, in Atlanta, or I think combined in Atlanta, Cleveland last year. What was it? You guys may have it off the top of your head, but it was 41-ish%, really good.
Yeah.
It's 30.8 this year, and that was a problem in Cleveland. That was one of their main problems on why they've taken such a dip. Is he was just not making shots. So, as you've seen with Keegan Murray, right? Keegan Murray as a rookie, when he's 41% hitting over 200 threes, he's a lot different looking 3-and-D wing than when he's making 30% of those threes. So, for that wing combo to work, Keegan Murray and DeAndre Hunter, I think you need to see them, at least combine somewhere around 36-37% from three.
Slates, what did you hear? I know Sam Amick was all over it, but what did you hear or think about the Domantas Sabonis Toronto Raptors smoke? Obviously, it is kind of flatlined, as Amick said, but were you surprised that the Kings couldn't get it over the finish line and what they wanted back in return for Sabonis? Do you feel like the Kings made the right decision?
Yeah, look, I heard what I think a lot of people have, which is like the Pirtle contract was like an albatross in this situation, right? And the fact that Toronto needed to try to get off of it. And I think the Kings rightfully were afraid of it, because when you talk to people around the league, scouts, execs, and you mention the Pirtle contract, it's like, ooh, that's a bottom 5 type contract in the league, but especially with his injury issues, but even his lack of performance, how long it goes out. I think there's like 100-something million left on it after this year. And like just that contract alone it would probably cost a couple first-round picks to get off. So, if the Kings aren't really getting the type of draft capital they want back in that situation, I think it's fine to go to the summer and revisit the Sabonis conversation in the summer. I mean, I think part of a patient rebuild, as I know we've talked about, as everyone in the area has tried to like come to grips with over the last, whatever year, basically since, this regime is completely flipped over, is if you don't get the deals you want, you can eat these contracts. Like there's no rush. It's going to be painful to go through, but like you don't have to just rush a Sabonis trade because you have to get some type of second round pick, or you just have to switch it up so you can see something different on the court. Like it's okay to take Sabonis to the summer and maybe resuscitate his value to a degree, or find a different market, or at the end of the day, if you just end up taking these contracts to the finish line and then having a bunch of cap space in a couple summers, like that's part of the plan too.
I just have one more for you, Anthony. Pardon me. You talked about how the Memphis trade kind of seemingly came out of nowhere. Why is it that we hear so much about certain teams, and we don't need to get into specifics, I know that wouldn't be appropriate, but we hear a lot about what this team's doing or might do. Other teams, you hear nothing, and then boom, something happens. Is that because some teams feel that they benefit from getting it out there? Is it because of the agents? Are some agents more talkative? Why is it that we hear so much about some teams and what they may do, and other GMs and teams, we don't hear anything, and then boom, something happens seemingly out of the blue?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of the above plus about 10 other factors that you just mentioned. It's the gossipy league. Sometimes when, drifts of information start over here because there's such a thirst when you go around these arenas or you're on the phones in this league that it just spreads like wildfire, and then suddenly it feels like there's so much noise over here. And if these two executives over here, or these 4 people that are kind of, trying to get a deal done over here, if they just are ironclad and not leaking it, sometimes it doesn't get out there. I mean, you didn't see Jared McCain to the Thunder coming today, because I'll tell you what, you're not getting a piece of information out of the Thunder. That's just how it works. So, and then big names. I mean, you mentioned some of the leverage plays, right? I mean, let's use AD, for example. I think you heard a lot of AD noise over the last couple of months because, like, Rich Paul's trying to get him a new contract, right?
Yeah.
And that's, like, part of the leverage plays that are happening, which is all part of the business.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Slater, we'll let you get out of here. I know. Is it warm in Phoenix?
83 degrees.
Man, okay, all right. Well,
let me say, I deserve it because I was in Minnesota for 5 days last week for that baseball series with the Warriors, and it was like -12 the entire time.
Okay, yeah, you're thawing out a bit. I know I haven't seen you at the games lately, but you said we're doing dinner in that backyard, so I need to get into the backyard some way, somehow.
That backyard is famous now.
That's right.
The price has gone up.
That's unbelievable. All right, well, I gotta mow the lawn then.
Okay, all right. Before we let you go, your best guess: are the fireworks done before this trade deadline comes to a close? Any more fireworks that you foresee, or are the fireworks done?
Well, I'm tracking one big firework that I said I'm skeptical, but yeah, it's still on the table. It's still on the table to the Warriors. It's still on the table to a couple other teams, maybe a surprise team. But the Giannis situation, there's a reason. Talk about a tension around a situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is a massive domino. It's held up a lot of business across the league. I think it's held up some of the Warriors' other pursuits. And could that drop in the next 24 hours? Certainly.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Saving the best for last.
There you go.
Thanks, Lace. Enjoy Phoenix. We appreciate it.
All right, fellas.
Great stuff. That's